Hello, coffee makers, not coffee takers. He is Dr. Joseph J. Burt Miller Jr., and I am the master of Cyber Farms of Fresno B. Nash Jr. We are the hosts of the Cyber Coffee Hour. We are two experts from Mount Vernon, New York, sharing with you our experiences in this field and also the experiences of others so we can learn, elevate, and ultimately realize that we all belong in this space. The views and opinions and thoughts of the Cyber Coffee Hour are not those of our employers, personal or professional relationships. For today's show, we are going to discuss the real-world effects of cybercrime. And to help us break it down, we have the security industry specialist, Tammy Allen. How you doing, Tammy?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Hey, how you doing, Joseph?
Good, man. Good. So as we mentioned, we do have Tammy Allen as part on the Cyber Coffee Hour. Now, Tammy Allen is a highly accomplished banking professional specializing in cybersecurity, anti-money laundering compliance, and fraud prevention. She is a security industry specialist at Amazon Web Services, or AWS. With over 16 years of experience, she holds impressive qualifications, including a Bachelor of Arts in Accounting, a Master of Science in Project Management, and an MBA. Tammy's commitment to personal and professional growth is evident in her pursuit of further education. She is passionate about creating new programs and improving processes and actively seeks mentorship opportunities to support others in their career development. In addition to her extensive background, Tammy's reputation has been further solidified by her recent appearances as a speaker at BitCon 2023, Black Compute Her, Black Girls and Cyber Refresh, and the National Society of Black Engineers Region 3 Conference. These speaking engagements demonstrate her banking, cybersecurity, and mindfulness expertise, showcasing her multifaceted skill set and thought leadership. Tammy is also dedicated to promoting diversity, inclusion, and belonging, actively participating in initiatives and serving on leadership boards. She is involved in organizing events for business resource groups, and her expertise and cultural awareness have gained recognition, with features in prominent publications like Black Enterprise Magazine and Afrotech. Tammy is known for her exceptional ability to achieve results and keen perception in identifying outliers and understanding people's true nature. Her energy and approachability have made her a go-to person with an extensive network of connections. She is admired as a workplace archaeologist, adept at uncovering and addressing organizational issues head-on. Tammy is fearless in tackling significant challenges and is recognized as an organizational resuscitator. Her remarkable skills, unwavering determination, and expertise in banking, cybersecurity, and mindfulness have earned her a reputation as a true pace setter in her field. Tammy, welcome to the Cyber Coffee Hour.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Every time I hear that, I'm always like, wow, that's me.
Yeah, your pace setter. We try to keep up with you, Tammy.
Shit is wild. Well, no. And like since then, right? Like I'll add these two little nuggets. Like, so since then, I just landed. I'm gonna be on a panel discussion with the SANS organization in April.
Let's go.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
So I just found out it's going to be me and a panel of, I think, 5 other Black women in cybersecurity. So that's going to be really powerful. And nice. Last month, I just started a new volunteer position with Girls in Technology. So it's like a subset of women in technology local to the DMV area. And so I'm now the director of communications for them. So
wow.
Yeah. Busy woman.
Yeah, we're gonna have to update the bio again.
Right.
Hey. I was listening. I was like, "Damn, how is this already outdated?" But no, I appreciate it. Really happy to be here with you, gentlemen, today, so we could talk about, cybercrime. I'm with it. Let's go.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So, So as we start this discussion, one of the first articles we're going to take a look at, it is titled Cybercrime to Cost the World $9.5 trillion annually in 2024. This article comes from cyberventures.com. The authors are Stephen Morgan. The author is Stephen Morgan, editor-in-chief. I'll just start with a quick excerpt, and then after that, I'll look to you two as we break this down. So, cybercrime is predicted to cost the world $9.5 trillion in 2024, according to Cybersecurity Ventures. If it were measured as a country, cybercrime would be the world's third largest economy after the US and China. Cybercrime costs include damage and destruction of data, stolen money, lost productivity, theft of intellectual property, theft of personal and financial data, embezzlement, fraud, post-attack disruption to the normal course of business, forensic investigation, restoration, and deletion of hacked and deleted systems, reputational harm, legal costs, and potential regulatory fines. I'll stop right there so we can kind of digest all that. But I guess, Tammy, I'll go to you first. The $9.5 trillion, what alarms are going off in your mind?
Okay, so first of all, I don't think many people understand just how large of a number that is.
Oh, I don't. I want to understand.
It's like we can't even process how much money that is. We can't because okay, so they said right that if it was a country, it would be third, right? As it stands, the U.S. GDP is like 27.36 trillion.
Then you memorize that.
Come on now.
No, I know. I'm sorry.
Beyonce said you have to get you don't get information, you stay information. Anyway,
right, I dig it.
Okay, so U.S. right, like U.S. is at 27.36 trillion, right?
Yeah,
9.5 trillion, and what's so wild is that this number isn't going to do anything but go up. Right. And so I like the fact that this article talks about the things that some people don't know that goes into like what happens when they stole your money or they stole your data. There is intellectual property that is involved in this, right? So companies have to pay their lawyers and I think the one thing that stood out for me was like loss of productivity. Right. Yes. And so right within like as a cybersecurity professional, right, like this shit is tracked, right? Cybersecurity programs have to know if some real shit goes down, right, how long will it take for us to fix it, to get back up, how long we're going to be offline, and then they have numbers like loss of productivity, how many people did it take not only to fix it, right, but how many people are out of work and how long did that happen, and all of that adds up to money. And so for me, that is the one thing that I think many people outside the industry, they don't consider. It's always about like, well, I lost this money. It's like, no, companies, like, they get the short end of the stick. Yeah, they created a company, they took on the risk, that's fine, but the amount of money that they lose when cybercrime happens is wild. It's not just about, okay, how long were they in our system? How much money did they lose? But reputational risk can cost you millions. Thanks to regulatory. Thanks to the regulators. Regulators like, yeah, go ahead and drop us 30 million because you messed up here.
Right.
On top of everything else, on top of the additional like audit scrutiny. Right? It's like, oh, you messed up? Yeah, we send in all our people. Let's go. That's time. That's additional money. That's additional effort. And say, hey, you got these, matters that require attention or matters that require immediate attention. Yeah. Yeah. You ain't got enough people to do that shit. All right, go ahead. Because now you got to hire contractors. You got to hire new people. It's like, hey, we have this thing that we have to do for the government. Now we got to hire more people in order to fix it. So yeah, like that, those were the things that stood out to me. I was like, people have no idea just how much that this is costing like these companies. And guess what? That cost isn't just within the company. Don't fuck around and support the company because it's going to trickle down to you.
Alfredo.
Boom. So I'm just going to let that rock for a minute because I'm going to steal something from Kay's episode from you, Joseph. Tammy, I knew you looked familiar. And I'm going to come in and say, for the part that I didn't know when I met Tammy was the forensic investigation. I was not aware of the forensic investigations. I'm usually the guy that called for the restoration, the deletion, the reputational harm, let's just say, and bringing the systems back online. So until meeting Tammy, I was oblivious to the forensic investigation piece. And that's going to play into the next segment in a second here. But Right there with you, Tammy. When we met, I had no clue organizations had to do that. I had no clue what, where, how, when the operations got stood up. And more importantly, I didn't know that they can send regulators. So for me in our journey, and we're going to dive into that when we get to your segment, I did not know, literally in the 5-year span that we've been doing this and further back before getting to where we met, I did not know that was the order of operations. We say that a lot, on the tech side, that's our favorite thing. But when something breaks, that was my first time being, get your stuff together. Come and restore these systems, come find this data. Reputational harm is at stake. You will do this because somebody else is giving us an action to do this. So that resonates. And that made me track what I didn't believe existed, cybercrime. For years, I didn't believe, as a technologist, cybercrime was legit on the docket, or let's just say a line of business in an organization, right? It could impact the line of business. It can impact the reputational, legal, and, the how to say operations of a company's day to day. So for years, I just thought that was something I chased in a textbook until I witnessed what happens when one of these organizations are compromised or victimized by cybercrime.
Right. So looking at this article, it kind of breaks it down to 3 different categories, or maybe 3 major categories that we're talking about cybercrime. So you have ransomware, cryptocrime, and also the cyber tech services. Look first at ransomware. So cyber criminals will attempt to infiltrate and encrypt corporate networks, demanding substantial ransom payments in return for a decryption key. Rather than grind operations to a halt for long periods, some businesses will pay up. Some will succumb to that pressure and pay the money.
Man.
So others may be subject to double extortion tactics, in which data is stolen prior to encryption and then set to be released publicly unless the victim capitulates to blackmail. In the White House National Cybersecurity Strategy, the government reclassified ransomware as the top security threat that requires a comprehensive federal approach in lockstep with our international partners to combat. And get ready for this. Ransomware will cost its victims around $265 billion annually by 2031, up from $42 billion in 2024 and in $20 billion in 2021. So Cybersecurity Ventures predicts with a new attack on consumers and organizations occurring every 2 seconds as ransomware perpetrators progressively refine their malware payloads and related extortion activities. So I'm going to stop there and want to hear your thoughts, Tammy.
I was hoping I'd take it first, but go ahead.
Okay, no, because I'm going through this and I'm thinking in my head, like, how many times? I think that's 6 times. Like,
Yes.
I think it's gonna go up 6 times. Like, was that increase like 15% or some shit? Like ridiculous. The stickler here for me is that people do not know how many companies pay the ransom.
Right.
And a lot of the companies pay the ransom quietly. You will never, you'll have to find and scour the earth to say, like, what? Like, they had a ransomware attack and they paid it? Why? Because it's easier for them. There are companies that are big enough that they can take this hit. Where it's kind of like, okay. However, since for me, the theme seems to be the regulatory stuff that comes on the back end that people don't know about, I know, like, for the past few years that FinCEN has been working on things where, like, don't tell me what the regulation is because I can't think about it right now, but they're having discussions because if a company pays ransom to and comes to find out that those people or that, like, cybercrime group or whoever is like a specially designated national is on like the OFAC or the sanctions list. If that happens, then the company is getting double, or, like, I guess according to this, triple penalized.
Yeah, they're gonna get fined again,
right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get fined again. Because I'm like,
Right.
okay, yeah, like, you already, like, your systems were compromised, you paid a ransom, but now you paid a ransom to somebody that is on the government's list, so now you gotta deal with the regulators. So it feels like you're damned if, like, they're getting it from both sides. But yeah, like, for me, like, we already know, like, how devastating ransomware is.
But
Wait,
isn't there another? Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna ask. So you have that side of it, but also
Mhm.
isn't there another component to say why a company would secretly pay the ransom because they don't want other attackers to know? Okay, this company's paying. Let me go hit them up because they're
Yep.
paying.
Well,
That's
that's
another
the part.
part.
That's the part. My favorite to piggyback on what y'all both said is the capitulation. That's me and my family's favorite word. Shout out to those who knows. Anybody in law enforcement is going to use that capitulation, right? That capitulation is a willing to work but not let nobody know I worked with this black male. The capitulation is a willing decision to say I'm a victim of this double extortion. How do I just get I got to get this out the way? I can't let that be what makes the ultimate decision. So I have to make a decision. That capitulation in that part is because it's a double and triple hit to the attack itself and what's being leveraged in the blackmail. Right? Do I want that out there? So that's why it's kept secret, because it says, the article says they have to capitulate. There's nothing. You're weighing against two unfortunate circumstances, and they have to make the decision to agree to pay the ransom. And that pressure to agree is not out there, like you said, Tammy. Like that's the onus that I had to learn to. Again, I didn't know that was all on the table. The capitulation included. When these investigators show up, they have to now go and say the company agreed to this. Why? Was it the blackmail? Was it the system restoration? Was it the revenue? What made you agree to this? And did you know who you were agreeing with?
Like most people don't know who they're agreeing with.
No, they don't. They just want the data back.
They just want the data back, and it's and also this also reduces the reputational risk for them too. It's if they quietly accept the ransom, then they don't really have to. It's almost because the public is fickle when it comes to this type of stuff. It's they had a ransom, but they paid the ransom and they got the data back. Most people are mostly concerned with is my data okay? Is my money safe? Right? Is the information that I entrusted to you okay? But yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned about them agreeing. Why did you do that?
Yeah.
But sometimes it's easier. It's the way it is in these streets, many people have no idea how much a lot of these, not even large companies, but companies in general, are fighting for their life every day. Not just every day, but damn near every second. Constantly. Around the clock, 24/7, they are constantly being hit with shit. Right? Okay. And so that's why, I'm always going to say, right, a breach is never about if.
Yeah, industry's saying that too.
The question is when, and then most of the time, you've already been breached. The question is, how long is it going to take for you to find it?
Capitulation is manipulation too. So we see that manipulation there too. That's another one. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry. No, you're good. So we're talking about the second one, cryptocrime. So cyber criminals seeking to cash in on cryptocurrency can perform various scams, including rug pulls, which is the abandonment of a crypto project without warning, taking investor proceeds with them, associated exit scams, and pump and dump schemes. So Cybersecurity Ventures predicts cryptocurrency crime will cost the world $30 billion in 2025 alone. That's nearly twice the $17.5 billion lost in 2021. And these figures are expected to grow by 15% annually.
Can I jump in first?
Yep.
Okay, so let me say this. Let me say this for all the people in the back. Just because we work in cybersecurity don't mean that we don't get scammed too. Please don't think that. Please don't think because we work in it every day or we have certifications, education, whatever, that we are somehow above being scammed. Because crypto, dude, I got my crypto stolen last year. And it was really good. It was so good. Y'all can come for me in the comments right now. I don't care, because you need to understand just how smart these people are. So I will not name the company, but I had my crypto in a certain company, and what happened was somebody called me and it was so we see that somebody's trying to get into your account and we want to call and reset your password. So me, a cybersecurity professional, is asking them 50,000 questions. So what's your name? Give me your number. What's your email address? Can you send me a confirmation of this? How do I know that this is you? How do I know that I work for you? Wait a minute. This feels different. Are you sure? What is going on? Right. And so me thinking okay, I got this, man. I got this, right? But something in the back of my head is girl, sure? Are you sure? And so what ended up happening is, I don't know how they did it. Like, no, I actually do know how they did it. There was a breach from another company a few months like before, and the company that I had my crypto with was involved in it. And usually what happens, for the people who don't know, when there are large breaches that include companies with like tons of other people's data, right? What usually happens is it takes maybe 2 to 3 months before you'll start to see like scammers. You'll start to see phishing emails or getting phone calls or shady text messages, right? So this was right within that time frame. So this company had already been breached. I, for whatever reason, did not change my password. And so what I thought happened is, like, they got into my account, called me, made it seem like my account had already been breached. And what was happening is they were walking me through the process of resetting my password and bypassing all of the security, the MFA, the multi-factor authentication. It was like, when I got off the phone, they took all my crypto. And when I say, I was just like, I got, I was like, damn, this was good. And I sent a strongly worded 4-page detailed document to the company saying, this is who it was, this is how they did it. Here's the phone number. I pulled IP addresses. I pulled my crypto. Just like, I went off. I still didn't get my money back. Anyway,
Wow.
but all that to
man.
say is, like, please understand, we are not, like, we all about to get some of the smoke. So I absolutely believe cryptocrime, like, they're too good. Yeah. They're really good at it.
So is that so that's the part I resonate with too. The sophistication, it's something you could tell me about, Tammy. I didn't know. Rug pulls and pump and dump schemes. So let's take rug pulls first. The abandonment of a crypto project without warning. Wouldn't that signal to the crypto company the what do you call it, due diligence of that particular project if it just got up off the ground and closed in 3 months? Or if it blew up to, like, I don't know, let's say 17 billion all of a sudden, and then it's gone. Like, wouldn't there be a due diligence there for the rug pull tactic to say what happened to that money?
I mean, yeah, but that usually doesn't happen until further down the road, if you notice. Historically speaking, anytime you have these types of schemes, they don't find out until, like, usually way down the road unless somebody is watching them. And this market isn't, like, we can't treat this industry like it's the banks, because it's not. The whole idea of crypto was anti-establishment. Right? And so there's a lot of regulations that aren't related to this. That's why people can't easily spin up new, like, you know, altcoins easily, right? So it's like the wild west out here with this crypto. Right. So people can kind of do whatever the hell they want to for the time being. But my guess is, as, like, historically, as it goes on, as we start to add more regulations to it, that time frame is gonna shrink. But yeah, like, I agree with you. They should be doing the due diligence, but are they? Probably not. That's why the risk is so high.
So looking at the last one, as I mentioned, the cyber attack surface. So the world will store 200 zettabytes of data by 2025, according to Cybersecurity Ventures. So this includes data stored on private and public IT infrastructures, on utility infrastructures, on private and public cloud data centers, on personal computing devices, and that will include PCs, laptops, tablets, smartphones, and on IoT or Internet of Things devices. The internet, now viewed by some societies as necessary as access to water and electricity, continues to connect the globe.
Alfredo, you got something to say? I see you. I see you.
Keep going.
Go ahead, man.
All right, so I'll share with you guys. I'll go first because I was 10 years ago. I didn't even know what a zettabyte file system was. I'm be real. I'm expose myself, put it out there for the audience. I worked in a particular industry where they schooled me to game. They put me on to game what a zettabyte was. What a zettabyte has access to and data. What we see here is critical infrastructure. Let's go back to that episode now, right? How much zettabytes store an entire critical infrastructure? And then what's coming after that zettabyte? The mythical being is a yottabyte. Right. So I didn't know I could preach that to the choir through the teeth because I didn't know 10 years ago a zettabyte exists, exabyte before that. What's coming because of the scale of this data is the mythical yottabyte. whole city scale size data sets. And we could preach to the choir and get some people from my track to tell you it's a pain in the grits to restore an entire site at a zettabyte. That was the joke. Like, how do you restore a zettabyte worth of data? 200 of that. How many sites is that? How much infrastructure is that to restore near real time, quote unquote, from an image, from a backup, from your particular cloud to mine, and then from your city to mine? Right? This is what we're talking about here. We're not talking about like just a small little VM. We're not talking about the big size cloud provider. We're talking about city scale now restoration.
That's major.
Yeah.
That's major.
I'm all for it. I've been here, like I said, I'm all for it. I'm ready. I've been here for 10 years waiting for this.
Well, I learned something new today. I didn't know what the hell a zettabyte was. I'm like, wait, what?
That's what we're here for, you know.
I'm like, oh God. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, it's like, for me, that amount of data is like, people don't like, this is a sidebar, but I guess it's related, because some people, they talk to me, it's like, well, I don't want to, there's certain apps they don't download. It's like, I don't want them to share my data. I'm like, dude, it's like, you have no idea how much data like so many companies have. Like, if you don't want to have, like, maybe you don't want to get like a Chick-fil-A app, but maybe, right, Google has your searches. Has your whole search history, or maybe
they have
like,
the whole,
like, yeah, they have, like, it's everywhere, right? But yeah, like as the Internet of Things expands and everything's connected, like, yeah, I would love to probably read up on like theoretically what this could look like, because like protecting that type of infrastructure, like, what the hell do you do?
You
like,
get ready. You take a backup. You build a whole site.
My job is solidified.
You restore it.
This is an evergreen industry.
Yeah. So going on with, so many small limited devices are connected to corporate networks in some fashion. Analysts are expecting 16.7 billion connected IoT endpoints to be active in 2023, rising to over 29 billion by 2020. Will have an almost unlimited attack surface to exploit for purposes including data exfiltration, ransomware deployment, identity theft, and more.
Let's let that sit in. This is the platform game right here. This is where I get it. This is where I get my coffee in the morning. I'm like, yes. You mean to tell me unlimited attack surface to exploit? What does that even mean as far as a boss battle goes? Right. You know, like, how do I convey that to my director, my director's director, senior director, VP, CISO, and then back down to, it's unlimited attack surface. I'll expose myself to 10 years ago, you couldn't even tell me what an attack surface was. 10 years ago, you couldn't tell me that it existed, and now that I'm a part of it, right? Like, that is very scary and exciting at the same time, especially for the data exfiltration. I didn't resonate to how much data is exposed, where it's going, and the identity of death associated to until a few years ago as well. So it makes it way more complicated. It makes it way more personal for me as a cybersecurity professional as well.
Yeah. So looking at, and actually there was one last one here. So as I guess factoring in the geopolitical and industrial risk factors. So cybercrime exists in a profound way on a global scale, with almost every service we rely upon, government services, utilities, consumer goods, and private enterprises connected to the internet, and therefore at risk of disruption due to cyber attacks. So, I mean, just how our daily operation, like, businesses, I mentioned, like, even at home, when we talk about those IoT devices, and that continues to grow. You have like smart devices. You may have like thermostats, ovens, coffee makers. Like, they're all connected to the internet now.
Cars, aircraft, water treatment plants.
So I mean, So I mean, just mention all those things. It's going to continue to grow, and of course, with internet continue to be, like I said, it's almost necessary as water, at this point now, because even you're talking about even for schools, like I think even if you're looking at it for for kids, try and get a good education, they need a good stable internet connection. So those are things you just can't disregard, or to say that's you can't even say it's a necessarily say that's a luxury. It's almost a necessity now in order for to stay on pace um with whether your peers, really staying on pace with your peers, I should say. So
Yeah, we
it's
lost you there for a second, Tammy. We kept
Yeah,
rocking.
my computer died for some reason. So let's go.
Okay.
All right.
okay. There
We'll
you
keep
go.
rocking. Sorry, Joseph.
No, you
So
good.
yeah, let's take it into a little bit. Let's take it to a little further too, because this is actually resonate with my heart a little bit too. For me, cyber attack surface is similar to with another term that I've heard, a terminology called cyber threat landscape. Now, that landscape is pronounced. We just identified the threats. We just identified the global scale issue, right? The city scale, global scale. What resonates with me too is that these criminals operate similar to, and we said this in another episode too, a managed service security provider that offers ransomware as a service to victimize that attack surface. Right, that's the threat. So I wanted to call that out because the threat is real, and the threat is existing in sophistication, like you said, Tammy. But it also has copious amounts of monetary investment on the adversary side. Right, they're not spending small change to offer this service. They're not even, let's say, a startup. Right, they're full-fledged operations. They're full-fledged criminals with the investment that they have in their company to now attack the landscape, to be a threat in the landscape. So I wanted some thought on that because that summarized the article for me, and I'm hip to it, right? I'm kind of aware of what how the service providers work on the defensive side, but I wasn't aware of the scale that these folks have emulated to attack organizations smaller and even larger to some extent.
So yeah, I will quote Anthony Johnson. I'm saying his name so he can know, because I'm like, I always talk to people about this. I remember a few years ago, he was presenting at one of the summits that I was running. And the question that he posed is, what happens when, like, basically our adversaries have the same resources, if not more than we do?
Well, we could jump into that too with the next article if you want.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
We can segue into that, because I was like,
Yeah, let's brief the resources first, because the reason why this platform exists is Joseph and I have existed on different sides of those resources, so we want to harp on that too in the next the upcoming article.
Okay. All right. Got you.
Yeah. So, so for the second article that we're looking at here, so this one is titled "New DOJ Unit Will Focus on Prosecuting Nation-State Cybercrime." This is authored by Martin Matashak. I hope I'm not messing that up. This was dated back 20 June 2023. I'll just start with a quick excerpt here. So the United States Department of Justice is adding a new section to its National Security Division that will focus on prosecuting malicious foreign cyber activity. A top department official announced. So the department seeks to take a more active role in combating digital threats from outside the country. The entity will allow the division to increase the scale and speed of our disruption campaigns and prosecutions of nation-state cyber threats, as well as state-sponsored cyber criminals. Assistant Attorney General Matthew Olson, the division's chief, said during an event at the Hoover Institution in Washington. The computer crime section in the department's criminal division will remain in place. The new national security cyber section will boast prosecutors who are positioned to act quickly as soon as the FBI or an intelligence community partner identifies a cyber-enabled threat, and we will be in a position to support investigations and disruption. He added, knowing the effort is in its earliest stages. And I'll stop there and get your thoughts on that.
Want to go first, Alfred?
Yeah, I didn't know this existed. I'm be real. I say this every day. Every day I pour my coffee. And shout out to the DOJ. I'm just be real. I'm a fanboy now because I didn't know national security. There was a national security division. I didn't know you can engage those folks. I was today years old when I could say I need a CSD to talk to those folks. Right now, I'm the private sector guy. Right. Also, shout out to the fact that they are already in place to prosecute. and we're going to get to that too. Like companies can't prosecute, right? Regardless of what we say today, public companies are not hacking back. They're not going out there sending folks to get their data back, yada, yada, yada. But the criminal division now has somebody aligned to national security interests, and my CSD should be aware of that. Like that's something that, again, wow. I didn't know that taxonomy existed. We'll touch on that, but now it tells me to step my game up, right? I got to be willing to sit down with these investigators and talk the talk because my data's out there. There's a victimology on my IP, my legal firm, and the people I serve, the customers, right? So I didn't know that. I didn't know, today years old, I learned something new about having a new national security division stood up.
No, no, I'm glad that you mentioned that a lot of companies aren't going after these criminals because
Right. They
legally,
can't. Yeah.
legally they can't.
Mhm.
Now, please, like, do not get it twisted. We would love to do that.
Right.
Like,
Oh,
most of us in the industry is like, come on, like, please, just one opportunity. Like, let me get our, like, we can get our lick back. Like, please understand, like, we could. Most companies could, but they can't legally. Like, their hands are tied because I'm like, what happens? What happens if they find somebody? What if that somebody turns out to not be who they say they are, right? And then we're colluding, like, and like, what if they're like related to terrorism or like all like it's like legally it is not. It's a land, like it's a minefield. They don't want to touch it. But the fact that now, like, right, the DOJ said we got you, because me, I'm like, oh, this is great because my main thing is like I'm always talking about how cybersecurity is everybody's problem. It's not just the cybersecurity organizations within companies. It's everybody.
Right.
And this is a testament for them saying, you know what? We need somebody specifically in cybersecurity, like in this particular area. And all I see is like, oh, this is good because it's going to start the domino effect that more and more of the government entities are going to recognize we need somebody that's focused on the cyber shit, and then those people can always be talking to each other and sharing intelligence. So yeah, I'm here for it because, like, yeah, the DOJ has they got the power behind them to say like, hey, we going after these people, and now they have the resources to do it. And I think they also said that they're going to be partnering with the FBI.
yeah.
Yes.
FBI intelligence, part of the IC, right? So again, 5 years ago, you could have told me when I was in school, I had to learn what the IC was. I didn't know what an IC was. And shout out to Utica University. I will name drop them all day, every day. They put me on to what an IC was. Even in my previous travels, I didn't know the operations at scale. Like you said, my favorite too, threat intelligence, didn't know what that was. Malware analysis, didn't know what that was. So shout out to them as well, because 5 years ago, you could ask me what an IC was, and I'm like, we don't have that in our company. Right?
So,
What you say? No, I'm playing.
But I just want to put this out there. So the article does mention that it's in its early stages right now, as because it was just talked about. It is working with the FBI, but they kind of give an indication that this is going to grow to something big. And also, if you have that collaboration, and I think that's always been something that always has been. I don't want to say vulnerability, or maybe I'll say a weakness as far as when we're talking about like information sharing within the government entities. So having this and I guess this initiative and them stating that they're just getting started. Do you think? And Tammy, I'll go to you first. Like, do you think this is something that we could see? Maybe they're working with CISA or even some of the other IC. Or members of the IC community in order to, as we're talking about combating cybercrime, or have a stronger presence, be able to detect and respond to some of these cyber threats. What are your thoughts on that, Jen?
No, I absolutely agree because they're already like the conversations are being had, but from what I've seen, it's usually been like somebody who's former government, right? And they moved to the private sector, and so they still have their connects. And like, yes, like the goal here, like this opens the door for more information sharing, and not even more, but faster. because that's like
It increases
anytime you're
that
dealing with
efficiency.
cybercrime,
Right.
right? Cybercrime is always it's a time box. Most of the time, you won't be able to get real time, like anything. And this kind of like opens that door to say, okay, let's kick down another door. It's like, here's one step closer to us being able to combat this in real time, or as close to real time as humanly
help
possible.
her.
So yes,
Yeah, so
oh, there she is.
Yeah, you got. I think they didn't want you to say what you was about to say, Tammy. I'll help you out.
Oh,
You literally
shit.
paused, so I'll help you out. The gateway in real time, I always used to say is near real time, right there. And,
Yes.
and if I get cut off, we know what it is, right? Information sharing is not a real time assessment. It's not the millisecond assessment. It has to land somewhere. Those cyber threats have to be contextualized, and I knew this.
Yes.
But a lot of the organizations don't have that monitoring resource to get it back to whether it be the government or another division that's been compromised. So,
yes,
it's I hear what you're saying, because that gateway doesn't exist. And when I say we, when you think the public versus private sector doesn't have that capability. You got to build up that threat intelligence sharing capability, the platforms. It's like we see on the big data side and the machine learning side. It's more contextualized, to be sent in real time, so it's not noise. I can send all this stuff over to this agency and it'll just be relevant to me and mine, but it's not. It's noise, and it's to your point too. How do you say it? If it's in this article, and my dad used to say this a lot, rest in peace, right? If it's in this article, it's already happening. It's already happening. It's just a matter of building that gateway from their NSD to a CSD in the company. If that company doesn't have the CSD, they're not in place to engage, vice versa, with these folks who are already in position. Right, they're already in position. A lot of the companies that they're supporting might have, and vice versa. Some capabilities might be bigger than this division's because it's in its early stages. Right, so the reverse happens too. The company could be sending a lot of data, a lot of information across the sector, and this division is just contextualizing it, just getting to understand those threats in a sector, bank, car company, energy company. So that resonated with me, and I'll piggyback off of what you said, Tammy. They have to collaborate. They have to send it in real time.
Well, I mean, like, y'all, Alfredo just explained the difference between sharing data and sharing intelligence. Because the difference between those two is like intelligence, like you can actually do something with it versus just kind of like, hey, this thing is happening. It's like, well, we don't know who, what, who, what, where, when, why is this important to me? So no, I completely agree with you. And I'm very curious to see, like, I'm excited for the first investigation. The one that's like the first one there was like, hey, we just spun this up and this is what we were able to do and this is who we found. And like seeing how fast they can actually make some shit happen. I'm here for it. I'll be on the lookout.
Is that we'll come to that too. We're gonna try to transition to the preparation for the fight, right? But is that the takedown prior to this? Because I hear it, I read the tea leaves like the industry says. When I hear a takedown, is that the part that you're talking about? Because again, you got to school me up as a private company, right? We don't know what that looks like. We don't. We're not. We don't.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like usually where it's like the takedown, but then also like the prosecution, right? It's like, I want to know if they can find who the hell is behind some of this stuff.
Got it.
Because that's like attribution for cybercrimes is just like,
I've seen
it's like movie. Somebody did this. Do we know who?
Right.
We have some ideas. We got some ideas, but most of the time it's like, unless it's like, a state, like this is like a state actor or a crime, like a cyber crime or ATP that we actually know, it could be tossed up in the air and we don't know. So I'm looking, I think, so for this, what I'm really looking for is attribution.
Yeah, that's the
like, I'm sure that like, I think that's like, because they're the DOJ, they should have the power to be able to find out who the hell this is, or be able to spin up the resources and say, all right, we got this subpoena where we can go into these computers. We can actually we legally have the power to go after these people. So yeah, that's like, I appreciate you asking for that clarifying question. Cause yes, attribution is the main thing I'm looking for here.
And we might have to do a separate episode on that, Joseph, for real. Cause that's a big one for me too. I think, if we can have somebody speak to that, it'd be great as well. But let's keep it going. Let's keep it rolling.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap this up, I just want to share one last thing on this. So just giving an example of DOJ's aggressive approach. Working with the FBI. So one example came about when they announced that they had disrupted a sophisticated malware implant that was used by Russian hackers for nearly 2 decades. So, and what this is, so back in May 2023, the U.S. and international authorities revealed the successful dismantling of a malware implant, as I mentioned, been around for 2 decades by a well-known Kremlin-backed hacking group. The Justice Department obtained court authorization on Monday. Again, this is backdated, enabling U.S. Law enforcement to eliminate the malicious code named Snake, utilized by the Turla Group, long associated with the Russian Federal Security Service, or FSB. The group's activities were traced to an FSB facility in Ryazan, Russia. All right. So, and then going to our last article here, this one's titled, The U.S. is less prepared to fight cybercrime than it could be. This is the authors. There's a GAO article, authors Marisol Cruz-Kane, the director of GAO, and Greta L. Goodwin. I guess they're both directors.
That GAO, yeah, probably, yeah.
Okay, so just in a quick snippet here. So yeah, cybercrimes in the United States have resulted in hundreds of billions of dollars in losses and threaten public safety and economic security. The victims are widespread and include individuals, schools, businesses, utilities, and governments. So we talk about like why cybercrime is difficult. So one is so cybercrime, including cyber enabled crime, generally consists of criminal activities that target a computer or network for damage or infiltration, or use the internet to conduct criminal activity. Cybercrime in the United States is increasing, resulting in billions of dollars in losses and threatening public safety. However, the United States lacks comprehensive cybercrime data and monitoring, leaving the country less prepared to combat cybercrime. I'm gonna stop right there. Tammy,
I'm so glad this is a video so they can see me and Al shaking our heads, turned to Russia. Yeah. It's like this is the perfect segue. It was like 2 decades. Yeah. They just found it, and it's
that's my whole career. Jesus, that's my whole career. Like, look,
2 decades. Oh my God. 2 decades, and this ain't the company. This is the government, right?
Right.
We are not as prepared as we could be at all. And so, yeah, like I love the fact that this article uses cyber-enabled crime because I don't know. Maybe people fight in an industry about like, well, is it really cyber-enabled? It's like, really, unless somebody's like walking into a bank and grabbing money, most of the crime that's going to be going on is going to be cyber-enabled. Like, well, the ones that's going to cost the most money. I'm gonna say that. But yeah, it's hard. It's like these are people sitting behind computers and firewalls and VPNs and all sorts of shit. And so being able to find that, and then like the fact that it's like the US lacks comprehensive cybercrime data and monitoring. Why? Because there's really no like, okay, we have different standards and different frameworks that say, hey, this is what a comprehensive cybersecurity program should look like. When it comes to crime, it's just kind of like, well, it could be this or maybe that. Companies get to decide what they decide is crime. They also get to decide like the risks that they take on. And then the government says, well, we think it might be this, but we're going to leave it broad so you can kind of give it to us. So it's like, it's a lack of, there is no standard. There's nobody saying, hey, this is cybercrime. This is what it looks like. Here's the information that you need to provide. And here's one place where you can get it. Right. And instead we got like 3, 4, 5, 15 different organizations that sit within the government, outside the government, that's collecting different information and different data. And then like Vincent has a completely different definition of what cyber-enabled crime means versus what other companies and the cyber industry mean. So it's kind of like we have all of this information and all this data and have no centralized place to put it. and then have like the right people analyze and say, all right, we got all of this data. Here's what we can do with it, right? From data to intelligence, right? There's nobody making that transition or making those connections. And that's like, for me, my career, that's one of the big things that I've always thought is like all of these different companies or within the companies or different groups need to come together and we need to talk. We need to share information so that way we have a clear understanding of what the threat landscape really is.
Bingo.
Because most of the time we don't.
I'll take it up from there. I don't know if anybody notices it. I'm a heavy gamer, right? I've said this on my beta episode. The jest in there is the FSB the operation was called Snake. Now, for people that go back 20 years, that's from a game called Metal Gear.
Yes.
Right?
Metal Gear. Okay. Yeah, Snake, the agent, right?
The adversarial team, the red team, let's just say, because you know where I'm going with this, Tammy, in a second. The red team was given that adversarial name. What I don't see here is the outer haven, right? If you follow my mantra here, Guns of the Patriots is my favorite game too. Shout out to anybody that knows and plays video games. The monitoring of this data came out of an outer haven, came out of an enclave that they set up. The beginning scenario in that game was they set up these operations, these virtual battlefields, right, to go out and do what in the later of the game execute on. Commence the operations. The mother bases is what they were called in the universe, for those that know. For me, my entire career as well goes back to where I learned where a platform could be stood up, outer haven could be stood up in the adversaries realm. Because I'm not, again, just a guy who plays video games. I didn't even know then that somebody would come out in today's real life and say, this is Snake. That when I read that article, I'm like, huh? They talking about Metal Gear? And then, okay, to your point, just being full jest here, the investigation and prosecution spanned four series till we got to Metal Gear Guns of the Patriots to need the operational mother base, to need that collaboration, the shared threat intelligence, spin up other operations, cyber operations included, because we look familiar, Tammy. And then teach me how to do that as the guy going into this virtual VR mission, this virtual battle space, because I don't know how to do that as a cybersecurity professional. So it comes full circle for me because the investigation, like I said, don't know. The prosecution, we could store that for specialists. And the identification on my platforms, my cyber threat intelligence platforms, which Google me, OSINT Gurus. I did a paper on this for my academia, and I didn't know it was real 5 years ago. And I'm still not ready. Right? I'm still not ready to understand that definition of cybercrime and who's commencing it, who's doing it in all of these spaces. So yeah, that developing taxonomy that the DOJ is giving me puts me onto. I need to learn that and be ready for the cybersecurity operations. Right, I need to be ready for the threat intelligence sharing, the malware analysis, the DFIR, all of those subcomponents that come with the taxonomy and outer haven.
Wow.
So picking up.
Wild.
Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
No, so the federal agencies, some like FinCEN, IRS, ATF, DEA, all use use a variety of mechanisms to collect and report data on cybercrime, including cyber-enabled crime. The nature and use of these mechanisms generally depend on the mission and focus of the agency's identification, investigation, and prosecution. So those federal agencies identified challenges in defining shared metrics, and those include measuring the extent and impact of cybercrime, agreeing on a definition of cybercrime, and coordinating among law enforcement agencies at various levels. And that really stuck out to me because even Tammy, as you were speaking on a little earlier, when you have all these different agencies and they have their own separate definition of what constitutes cybercrime, or I feel that alone is a problem, because one agency may say, this is a big deal. Another one will be like, no, not really. So
right.
Then you don't see action. You don't see the same collective action being taken because they don't see it the same way and they don't define it the same way. I guess Tammy, like, do you feel like even that, just not even define, not having a collective uniform definition at its basic level, if we don't even have that established, do you see that as a problem?
Yeah, I'm glad we had this conversation because I've thought about this. I've dealt with this within my career, but right now, as we're talking, I'm really kind of I'm going in deeper because yes, right? In order for any team organization to be able to move forward, you have to have a mission, right? A vision, a
Right.
plan, a strategy, right? And if you don't even agree on what is cybercrime and what isn't, what are you really doing? You just have like a whole bunch of people in the room yelling at each other that you don't understand me. Or also I just thought about this. You can't, how will we be able to determine what's important?
Yeah, you
Because
can't
if like I
prioritize.
tell you that this is crime, if I tell you that this is crime, this is what I determine cybercrime, but my leadership is like, no, it ain't. No, we don't agree with that, then that is like I'm not able to start. So yeah, like I would love to see a think tank or maybe write a white paper or something about like what could that look like, where would it sit, who would be in charge. I fully believe it can't be somebody that's that's deep in it. It has to be like somebody that is like outside enough to where they can provide like an unbiased analysis, but also close enough to where when they say something, they have the respect of, the intelligence community as a whole. But yeah, that's a huge problem because you can't even really solve the issue if you don't have a uniform definition of what that means. And maybe if they even do it based on industry.
Yeah, based on
right?
sector.
Yeah. Like I think that would be helpful, but because I'm like, cybercrime for a bank may not be the same as credit card company, right? So yeah, I see it as being a big problem, but I mean, it seems like it can be easily solved.
Yeah, I'll take it up from there. It can be. We all are in agreement that the criminals know the crime and the sectors they're committing these atrocities
really do.
to, right? So that to me signals a sophistication on the average. It's like chess, right? I got to know how hard that person's going to go to defeat me, right? And the tactics, techniques, and procedures, industry taught me this too, that they're going to do to accomplish that. But TTP,
Let's go.
great shout out. The internal sense of me as a strategist, as a tactician says I need to be able to counter those moves. Right. And
Yes.
I love the idea because we know where this comes from, but I can't counter those moves if I don't know what a mission is. So a mission statement may not be directly aligned to a mission in a line of business. The adversary has that organization already. They have that organization to know what their mission is and the statements and actions and TTPs they have to execute across sectors. Right. So when you hit the sectors aspect or the company and sectors, we have the critical infrastructure sectors. We had an episode on that. We have the taxonomy. When I say we, the United States government, but what we don't have is the understanding of that taxonomy in the private companies that are working in those sectors. So a lot of times you have to stand up an internal cybersecurity division, cyber threat intel platform, Outer Haven, that's my favorite thing. And then the means to share that information in real time to bolster the company's sophistication. Some of them are called MSISACs, check my paper. Some of them are called HSISACs. There are those capabilities, but not of them are not talking, how to say this, across sector on a unified platform or a unified leadership in the private sector that utilizes those tools and shared data sets and monitoring mechanisms. So for me in academia, that was my problem statement, and it's still not solved. And then that has to be bolstered because I didn't know what a mission was. I don't know. I had to get taught this, me reconnecting with Dr. Joseph as well. I don't have the exposure to that mission support or the mission clarity until reading and doing the research and being in industry as long as I have been now to realize most companies don't have the mission of stopping these cyber criminals. Again, to re-harp back on what we said. Now, if I'm deputized or if I'm enabled by these organizations to move my investment towards this national cybersecurity division, not even just investment, because I hate confusing it with the money too. The data is the investment. We said that in the first article. The people and staffing is the investment as well. That's the coffee I like to keep talking about, us doing the job, right? We're going to probably do another episode on that too, but that line needs to be moved from it's just a monetary concern to it. It's a national security concern for both of us, all of us, right? So I'm not, I'm not on the campaign trail. I'm not a politician. I'm just a technical dude, right? Like that needs to be understood in the organization, standing up the CSDs, standing up the platforms paying for the
Mhm.
platforms, building them themselves. Some of these tools are open source too, right? You could build one of these in a cluster in your basement behind you. You know, so I just understand that the sophistication of the adversary is way ahead of the organizations that they're attacking, and they have to bolster up themselves to share with these federal agencies and communities to practice. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, this was a really great discussion. I enjoyed this. This was good. We have to continue this, but